When we first meet a prospect, we must do the proper diagnosis. We must do the proper diagnosis. Otherwise, we might have the wrong prescription. Remember Les did the pre-qual? The reason he pre-qualified, he wanted to find out, he was diagnosing the prospects so that he could present them with the right information to help them. He was going to come to them with the right prescription. So in other words, it really doesn't matter what it is we want to sell. What matters in the sales is what the customer wants to buy. But we need to discover, what are they looking for? They just want a price. What is their level of motivation? Maybe they really don't have to move. You know, maybe they want to move but don't have to move. And if they have a low level of motivation, which way does their price go? Up. Lower level of motivation, the higher the price goes. There's no question. The higher level of motivation, the lower the price will come, or what will happen, they may be listed at a high price, so they'll quickly reduce to the right price. Would you agree? See, motivation is everything. And if they got no motivation, you better get the right price. Because if you got lack of motivation and high price, guess what you got? Expired listing. That's exactly what we're going to end up with. Number 3 says this: questions are a sales professional's greatest tool. Questions are a sales professional's greatest tool. Great questions get the customer talking, allowing us to listen, learn, and demonstrate our genuine interest. See, I'll read that again. Questions are a sales professional's greatest tool, because great questions get the customer talking, allowing us to listen and learn and demonstrate our genuine interest. Now, would you agree that Leslie asked questions 90% of the time? That's all he did. He's like, question, 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 question. Did it sound like he was like pulverizing the questions? No, because he was asking them in a nice way. But think about this. If he's trying to build rapport, if he wants them to like him and feel good about who he is, then he has to show interest in them. How do you show interest in another person? You ask them about their life. So he was asking about their life. They obviously subconsciously think, man, this person's really interested in me because he keeps asking about me. But in the meantime, guess what he's doing? He's discovering what he needs to discover to figure out how to go to the next step. That is the power in questions. See, selling is not telling. Selling is asking. Now, why don't people ask more questions? The number one reason is they think what they're doing is they're like interrogating, would you agree, the prospect. And the other reason we don't ask questions is because we're afraid of what? The answer. We're afraid we might not have an answer to their answer. So we'd rather not know. But what Les does is ask questions that lead him where he wants to take them. So the next point says this, the top of the next page. It says to be successful at listing property. To be successful at listing property, we must make our client dissatisfied with their present circumstances. We must make them dissatisfied with their present circumstances. Now, ladies and gentlemen, do you agree with this statement that generally speaking, most sellers are satisfied with their circumstances? They think, hey, get my house on MLS and it's going to sell. So they're satisfied. What we need to do is somehow make them dissatisfied, because the value we create is between what they think they need and what we demonstrate they need. That's the secret right there. Because they think they need MLS, we need to make them dissatisfied with, wow, I had no idea that I needed that. There's a great story about this manager. And he had been managing forever. And he hired this young salesperson. Anyway, the young salesperson was with him for a couple of weeks, and the manager calls him in Friday for a review before they went home for the weekend. And this manager looks at the salesperson and he said, you want to know something? You've been with us for a couple of weeks now and you haven't sold a darn thing. What's going on? Well, the salesperson looks at him a little cocky and he says, well, I'm telling you something. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. Well, the manager's sitting there in his infinite wisdom, and he looks down at the salesperson. He said, oh, yes, you can, son. You got to learn how to make him thirsty. And I think about that when I think about sellers. See, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. Oh, yes, you can. We need to make them thirsty. Now, honestly, did Les make them thirsty? Did he demonstrate that not all the homes are selling like they think they're selling? They think everything's selling because most sellers do. And he said, listen, only 60-some% of the homes that are selling. You have a 32% chance of not selling. Do you realize only 2 out of 3 homes are selling and only actually one's not going to sell? We want to make sure you're on this side of it. But guess what I do? I'm selling 90-some% of my listings. So what he did was this. He created dissatisfaction. He opened a gap in their life that they didn't know they had. And then he closed the gap with his presentation. He closed it with the presentation. So what he did, he created value in the relationship between what they thought they wanted and what he demonstrated they wanted. Do you see? That's how we demonstrate value. And ladies and gentlemen, would you agree with this? People don't always want to make the right decision, but they want to avoid making the wrong decision. Would you agree with that statement? Well, they're sitting there thinking if they just randomly choose an agent, they got a 32% chance of not selling, but not with Les. He might not be the best agent in the world, but he's definitely not the wrong decision. And then did you hear he said, did the other two agents mention to you these percentages? Oh, no, they didn't. Oh, interesting. I wonder why. And then he went on. I thought, how brilliant was that? So now they're sitting there, well, you're going to hire the other ones? You don't even know what percentage of the listings are selling. And they didn't tell you, so we know it's not that good. See? Absolutely brilliant. Next point says this. Don't tell them. Don't tell them what you're going to do to get their home sold. Don't tell them what you're going to do to get their home sold. That doesn't matter. Tell them what you've already done for others. Tell them what you've already done for others. Ladies and gentlemen, if what you do doesn't sell their home, why does it matter? It doesn't matter at all. What we need to do is we need to focus on what we've already done for others. Put yourself in the position. Let's say, Jerry, you're going to hire an executive. You know, you're the CEO of this large company, and you want to hire a president that's going to drive your company forward. I mean, you need somebody good. And you have two people. You've had a whole bunch of interviews. You narrowed it down to two people. One of the executives walks in, and you look at him, and you say, executive, why should I hire you? Why should I make you the president of my company? I want to see 35% growth. How are you going to make that happen? And he sits down and he goes, let me show you my plan. You know what I'm going to do with your company? We're going to hire this incredible sales force, and I'm going to put them on the road. We're going to open markets and new markets. And that's what we're going to do. And when I'm finished next year, man, I'm telling you, Jerry, you'll be so glad you hired me. Because I got this incredible plan right here. I sat down, I spent the whole weekend writing this for you. Because I want this job. You're sitting there and you go, wow, this guy's good, man. He spent all weekend. That's a pretty good plan. Well, listen, I got another interview, but you know, I'm pretty keen on you. You seem like a pretty good guy, but let me give you a call tomorrow. Well, he walks into your office. Then the next executive walks in. And you look at him and you say, why should I hire you? And he looks at you, a little calmer. He says, well, I guess there's probably lots of reasons. But he said, more importantly, he said, why you should probably hire me is what I've already accomplished for the last 2 or 3 companies I've already worked with. When I got involved with the last company, their revenue was about $35 million. And I was in charge of growth. I was in charge of business development. I was in charge of driving that company forward. So what I did was I created a great strategic plan, and we executed incredible strategies, incredible tactics on that particular company. By the time we're finished, in 1 year, we grew it. We grew it by 25% in a marketplace where great growth would have been 10 or 12%. And then guess what we did in the second year? Do you see where I'm going with this? Which executive will you hire? You're going to hire the one that's already done it because, see, he has a track record or she has a track record. So that's the direction you're going to go. Well, think about real estate. Is it the same? And here's what I know to be true. The only time they'll ever ask you what it is you're going to do to get their home sold is when they don't have any confidence in you that you can do the job. But if they have confidence in you, they will never say to you, what are you going to do to get my home sold, Jim? Never happened. How many times have you walked into a past client's home? And I mean, you've sold a house for them before, got a great relationship, and the first thing you say, hey, what are you going to do to get my home sold? They never say it because they have confidence in you. So what we have to do is demonstrate confidence through what we've already done for others. They will never ask you what it is you're going to do because they believe in you. That's the key. And then number 7, it says this. It's that marginal tactics executed passionately. Marginal tactics executed passionately will always outperform brilliant tactics executed marginally. Will always outperform brilliant tactics executed marginally. And what that point means to me is when we go on a presentation, just like I'm doing right now, I'm expelling energy. You know, I'm giving you some energy as much as I have. Well, when you go on a listing appointment, we need to be alive. We need to do this. We need to show them that we're going to stay alive long enough to get their home sold. So what we need is we got to go in there, and I'm not saying we got to be outgoing and we got to be over the top. That's not what I'm saying. But we got to be there. We got to be present. We got to be with them. Not just sort of hanging back. So, you know, what do you want me to do? Yeah, well, you got a beautiful home. I love that orange shag. Oh, best stuff I've ever seen. You know, what we need to go in and guide. We need to go in and direct. And to do that, we got to use energy and we got to use enthusiasm, because I'm telling you, enthusiasm sells. Excitement about what we do for a living sells. Excitement about the house sells. Because when you're in there excited about their home and they can tell you love what it is you do, you're committed to what it is you do, guess what they buy into? They buy into that excitement. So we need to get enthusiastic. How many people here learned something in the last 60 minutes? Raise your hands really high. Yell out as loud as you can, the #1 real estate company in the world.
RE/MAX.
Oh, you guys can do better than that. The #1 real estate company in the world.
RE/MAX.
Excellent. Great job. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to take a short break, and we'll be back very shortly.
Hall of Fame program with our very special guest, Mr. Richard Robbins. It has been a phenomenal hour. It's gone by just like that. Now we are at the time where we will take questions and answers from our audience, from phone calls and from emails. We're going to start right here with the studio audience. Our very first question.
Hi, my name is Jason Daniels. I'm with RE/MAX Partners out of Colorado Springs.
Hey,
I have a question. I have a lot of enthusiasm, and when you go on a listing presentation, you need to create that need for them, but I don't have the statistics or the stats that maybe Leslie has. What would you recommend?
Right. Great question, Jason. If you're a newer agent, what you want to do is you want to use your company statistics. Now, fortunately, you're with RE/MAX, and I do an awful lot of work with RE/MAX. And what you want to do is go to your company and create statistics for the whole organization, for your office, if there's 20 people or 80 people or 100 people. Now, we have right now across the country many, many brokers and managers that have put these corporate statistics together. Because your company statistics, I will suggest, almost guarantee you, will be substantially higher than the market statistics. And then once you get your own, you start using your own. So when you want a presentation, all you say is we do this, we do that. Until you get your own, and then you say, I do this, I do that. Did I answer your question? Yeah. That would help.
Wonderful.
Great.
Our next question is email, and it's from Phyllis Staines, who is with RE/MAX Coastal Real Estate in Florida. Her question is, can you briefly discuss your thoughts on the best way to increase the number of listing appointments?
Great. #1, absolutely learn the presentation cold. You will find more presentations will start to show up when you want to go on them, when you want to be there. Okay? So that would be the #1 thing. The second way is, especially with the way the market is changing, we got to get more in touch with our past clients than ever before. We got the no-call law happening right now. We got the Privacy Act up in Canada. There's all kinds of things going on. It is harder than ever before to get a hold of people we don't know. So certain prospecting methods will not be as effective. We've got to go deeper with the people we do know. And I guarantee this, if every person watching would pick up the phone and phone all of their past clients and say to them, I'm trying to grow my business this year, can you help me? And make a commitment to talk to those people 3 to 4 times per year. Not only will you get business from them when they move, but each person that owns a house, remember this, knows 3 to 5 people they're going to buy and sell every year. So we need to tap into that knowledge. We need to leverage ourselves through the people we already know. So the #1 way is to get on that telephone.
Great.
Yeah.
Great advice. Okay, next we have a phone call from Mayleek in Silver Springs, Maryland. Mayleek?
Are you with us, Mayleek?
All right. Okay. You know what? We'll go to the audience while we get that taken care of.
Hi, Richard.
Hi.
My name is Debbie Shear with Team Kilpatrick, RE/MAX Alliance Evergreen.
Hey, Debbie.
And I'm wondering, shall we take the whole team on the listing?
Yeah, what a great question. Some people do. Most people do not. Okay, like the people we're coaching, we have a group we're working with called the Masters, and we have an inner circle coaching program, and there's another group called the Masters, and it's for people that are, let's say, earning a lot more, and generally speaking, have a team. Most people do not, and the reason they don't is because it's very overwhelming for the sellers. You're sitting there with maybe 2, 3, or 4, or 5 people, and it really becomes an overwhelming experience, intimidating to the sellers. We want the sellers to be comfortable. But here's what I do recommend, is not taking the team on the presentation itself, but the next day after you've got the listing, should the whole team go look at the property? Absolutely. So what you want to do is, or maybe if you have a large team and you take 3, 4, 5 listings a week, every week you set up your own personal caravan where your whole team goes out and looks at all the listings so you can see the strength of the team. So that would be my recommendation. Great.
Great. And we have another email question. This is from Kim Noel, Remax Results Realty. She says, is it worth taking a 6-month listing contract when most listings probably end up costing us money if they don't sell within the first 3 months anyway?
Right. Okay. Interesting question, because I look at it and say, quite often sellers cancel us, but how many times do we cancel them? Interesting thought, isn't it? And I look and say, I remember when I was in real estate, I always looked at it as a partnership. My objective was, if I was going to build a relationship with Joe, it's a partnership. My job is to get your home sold for the most amount of money in the least amount of time with the least amount of inconvenience. We all know that. And your job is to make sure that I get paid for it if I achieve that objective. But if I feel I can't achieve that objective because of the marketplace, or whatever the case is, then would you all agree that I have a responsibility to call the sellers and tell them that? So if deep down inside I do not think it's going to sell, I need to pick up the phone and say, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, you know, I need to come over and have a conversation with you, or I need to have a conversation right now. But based on what's happening in the marketplace, as much as I would love to get your home sold for this price, it's not going to sell. And if they will not adjust or do what is necessary, then what I would suggest is you cancel the listing. But I do believe in taking the listings as long as you possibly can, because you don't know what market's going to change in the next 2 or 3 months. So now you take a short-term listing, the market picks up, and all of a sudden you just put yourself in a position you don't want to be in. You lost a listing that could be in a market that's escalating. So take it long, but don't be afraid to cancel them once in a while. You know, go give them back, or, you know, cancel a listing and say, you know, honestly, we're just not going to be able to work together. If you take that position, you know, you're going to find that's really interesting is people will start to adjust to the right price. Because if they think you're actually going to cancel it, they're going, whoa, 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 because what does everybody want? What they can't have? Hey, they can't have Joe. We better reduce the price to keep Joe. Because then they really see how serious you are about your business. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Okay?
Great advice. Are we going to go to the phones, or shall we? Wonderful. Okay, we have a phone call from Elizabeth Mendenhall from Columbia, Missouri.
Great.
Elizabeth?
Sounds like a party.
Hi, we're watching from Columbia. We've got about 15 people here. We're real excited about your information.
Thank you.
Our question tonight was, what are your suggestions for a 2-step listing appointment? And do you have any suggestions for a pre-listing?
Yes. Okay, great question. So there's really 2 questions. Let's talk about pre-list first, and then we'll go to 1- and 2-step listings. I believe firmly in pre-list packages. However, if you're going to deliver a pre-list package, deliver it in a way that really amazes the customer. Here's how you do it. Create a pre-list package for yourself. I'm not a believer in big ones. I see ones that are 20 pages long, and people send them to me all the time, and I look at them, and I'm not convinced people read those. I think the bigger they are, the less chance they're going to read it. You walk into a bookstore, which book do you go to? The one that's got a whole bunch of pages, the one that's got a few pages? We get, I look books that got 2 or 3 pages, but anyway, that's another story. So what you want to do is a smaller package, and in the package what I suggest is testimonials. Because third-party testimonials is the most powerful sales tool in the world. And it's somebody else talking about your incredible services. But to put all the stuff in there about I'm number one, number one, number one, number one, it's just, in every market I go into, I open the paper and everybody's number one. You see that? Like, I can't believe how many number one agents there are in every market. And all the high school pictures, we're still using our business cards. But that's a whole other story. Anyway, look at that. So make the package small and make it effective with lots of testimonials in it, and then deliver it by courier. Deliver it by courier, not even email. So what you want to do is create a relationship with the same-day courier. And it costs you $8, $8.50, maybe $10 in different marketplaces. And the courier picks it up and they deliver it. And would you agree, when people get something by courier, they hit something special? And think what happened to your level of professionalism. What happened to the perception of your value? It started to go up before you even got to the home. But don't deliver it yourself. Think about this. You're working with a lawyer, and the lawyer wants to drop off some information to you to review before an appointment, and he shows up at your door and hands it to you. You're going, boy, am I with the right lawyer? I thought this guy should be real busy. Do you see? Perception is reality. Okay, so if you're going to have somebody else drop it off, that's fine. Courier is best. The 1- and 2-step process. Am I a believer in a 2-step process? Yes, sometimes. Am I a believer in a 1-step process? Yes, sometimes. If it's a really expensive home, and you would have difficulty pricing the house, without actually seeing it because it's maybe unique, it's got characteristics other ones in the neighborhood, then I'd say, man, you got to go in a 2-step process. You got to go see the house first, because you probably couldn't walk in there prepared. And if you can't walk into a listing presentation prepared, you got to do 2-step, because when you show up, you better be prepared. However, if you're in a neighborhood where it's sort of cookie cutter type homes, and you can price it fairly easily, then I'm a believer in the one-step process. And the reason I'm a believer in the one-step process is I believe that you can go in there with the type of presentation that Leslie used, and I think you can deliver value in that one step. Now, some people like to do it because they want to go in first, then the other agents come in, and then they go back. But would you agree Leslie eliminated that problem with the pre-qualification? Okay? Now, let's say that they wouldn't adjust the appointment. Should he still went? And the answer is yes. You still go. But try to adjust the appointment. If you can't adjust it, you're still going to go. Okay? So that would be my suggestion. Use it if you can't be fully prepared. But if you can be prepared, then use the one step.
Great. Now we have another audience question.
Hi, my name is Brian Daniels with Remax Partners in Colorado Springs.
Hey, Brian.
And I have a question regarding Leslie's listing cancellation policy, and I was just wondering, is that a major factor in regards to obtaining more listings?
I don't quite understand the question.
Well, he uses that. Is that something that that he used in his listing presentations always, or did that increase his listings from 38% to 79%? Is it a big factor?
Okay, so in other words, did it increase the conversion rate of appointments to listings when he started to use that? Great point. Well, Leslie's right here, so why don't we put the lights on him for a minute?
Yeah.
And look at it. They haven't left. They haven't left the table. They're having coffee now. So, Les, could you answer that question?
Yeah, I can give you a simple answer. It wasn't a big factor. I mean, it obviously helps get a longer listing term, but it wasn't a big factor in terms of converting more appointments to listings.
Right. I remember we talked about it, actually, because we had a discussion about this whole thing, and what we had decided was it's probably better to have it. And the reason it's better to have it, if you truly provide value to the customer, who cares? Because if you're doing a really good job, they're not going to fire you. Like if you're doing a great job, they want to keep you. And they can tell whether you're doing a good job. And a good job isn't their house being sold. That's not a good job. They know when you're doing a good job. But here's what it did. It eliminated a conflict at the table. That's what it did. It eliminated conflict. So now there was no conflict anymore. They go, well, man, yeah, all the pressure's on Jim, so what do I have to worry about? And think about how comfortable they become with that process, because now what's going on in their head, they're thinking, well, Jim must do a good job or he'd never do that. There's no way he's not going to invest the money and then we cancel. So what happens to the perception of value? What happens to the faith? It goes up. So that's why I think it's powerful. I think it's a tool to help you become, in their eyes, much better. That's why we use that.
Great. Now we have a phone call. It's Lance in Toledo, Ohio.
How are you doing?
Hey, Lance.
How you doing, Rich?
Great. How you doing?
Terrific.
Good.
My question, Rich, is what if a seller wants to find a home before listing?
Oh, great question. You had to bring that one up, did you? So far, I could answer them all. Well, I think that's a challenge. How many people have that challenge where, okay, well, we'll list our home, but we want to find a home first? It comes down to the type of business you want to run. And it's a very tough objection to get over, especially in a hot, hot, hot market. Because everybody goes, my house is going to sell in 3 days, and I can't find it, there's no inventory. So my suggestion is this. My suggestion is what you do is you present it to them in such a way that we're going to do both at the same time. So in other words, you sit down with them and say, listen, we got to get your home in the market because there's a period of time from when we list it to when it hits the marketplace. You know that a lot of the realtors want to come out and see the home. You know, we get all the marketing up and running. You can see where I'm going with this. You know, like we got a train that we got to get started here, and it takes a while to get the momentum going in this train. So what I'd like to do is go ahead and get your home on the market. We will start to market your home for sale. But what I'm going to have for you tomorrow is a list of all of the properties that are presently available. And we want to get you out immediately and start looking at homes. So if an offer comes in your home, you know where it is you're going to go. Now, I used to use that fairly effectively, but it didn't work all of the time. And then you've got other areas where they're saying, no, under no circumstances am I going to list my home for sale right now. And I get that. I understand their situation sometimes, and I think we have to be empathetic to their situation. I really do. And then we need to look at it and say, if we found you the right house, would you buy the house firm, or would you make it conditional upon the sale of your house? That's the question. And when you ask them that question, they say, oh, no, we buy firm. Well, I'm working with you, right? You're going to buy firm and you're going to sell firm? Hey, that's a good relationship. We need to get married. But if they say, no, 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 we couldn't put in a firm offer, well, now you've got a decision to make. Because then you've got to say to them honestly, well, think about this. If we have your home on the market, right, And of course, you put in a conditional offer on another home, and we're in a hot market, that's why you want to do it. How long do you think your offer is going to stand before it gets bumped out by another firm offer? So now what happens, you're going through this huge emotional roller coaster. We're going like this. You know, found the right house, lose the right house. Found the right house, lose the right house. And I can't even explain to you how many people that I've seen that finally decided not even to move because they couldn't handle it anymore. And we've all seen it. We've all seen it. So we need to be honest with them and tell them, my job is to help you through this experience. And the experience is this. If you want to buy a house, if you want to get the best price, and if you want to get the house you want, you need to be in a position to make a firm offer, and the only way you can make it is by having your house sold. Does that make sense to everybody? So that's the question that I would ask them. But if they don't care, if there's lack of motivation to buy and there's lack of motivation to sell, then quite honestly, it's one of those ones you probably need to say, I'm not convinced, we can probably work together. Okay, so.
Great. One more phone question. We have
Great.
Mickey from Kalamazoo, Michigan.
Great.
Mickey?
Are you there, Mickey?
Yes, Richard, thanks for taking my call.
Great. Well, thanks for calling in. Do you have a question?
Is, what should I do if sellers won't list at a marketable price? And should I still take the listing?
So if they won't list at a marketable price, should you still take the listing? Is that the question? Okay, what I think you need to do there is, number one, if they have a level of motivation. I'll never forget, this was years ago, I was coaching real estate, a RE/MAX agent by the name of Drew. And I was talking to him one day, and he had talked about a listing presentation went on the day before. And he said, I decided not to take it. I said, why? He said, well, they wanted to overprice their listing. I said, okay. He said, what would you have done? I said, well, I don't know. I said, let me ask you a question. I said, on a scale of 1 to 10, what was their level of motivation? He said, the level of motivation, he said, I'm saying was maybe an 8 to an 8.5. I said, you didn't take the listing. I said, Drew, phone them back today and go get the listing because they're going to reduce the price. But he got this thing in his head that he wanted all his listings priced right. You know, he didn't want to carry these listings for a long period of time. So if they have a high degree of motivation, then my suggestion is if you can't get the right price, you still take the listing because they're eventually going to come to the right price. However, if they have little motivation to actually sell, then I don't think you should take the overpriced listing because you're going to end up with an expired listing, as I said before. So the answer to that question is all based on motivation. If they're highly motivated, take the listing because they will come to the right price. If they have a low degree of motivation, and did Leslie qualify the appointment to find out the level of motivation before he was going? See? So if they have a low degree of motivation, then quite honestly, you should probably think about walking away from it because it'll probably turn into an expired listing.
Wonderful. We have one more question from the audience.
Yes, I think.
Oh, right here.
Hi there. Amanda DeVito, RE/MAX Alliance in
Hey, Amanda.
Nevada. Pretty much you were touching on what my question was, and it was about having a seller who's not very motivated and he's overpriced,
Right.
but he's doing fix and flips and he's going to turn out to be a good client in the future, and you don't want to bail on him now, but he just wants to leave the house sit on the market. So
Right.
how do you handle that kind of situation when you know they're going to turn out to be a good future client?
Complete honesty. I tell them, I say, I know what you're doing. You want to leave in the market. You don't care if it sells. You know it's an overpriced. You're in the real estate business. I would say that to them. Like, this is what you do. You flip homes all the time. You understand the market as good as me. We both know that every once in a while we fluke out, we find a buyer that flies in from out of town, looks at 3 homes, and happens to buy one. But we might as well buy a lottery ticket in most cases, right? We know that happens, and I know what you're trying to do. I'm going to try to get it sold for you because I want the relationship. You know I'm going to work hard for you, but please understand it might not happen. I would be totally honest with them and tell them, I know what you're trying to do. I want to work with you because I want to build the relationship. So I'm willing to do this. But it's not something I would normally do, but I'm doing it because it's you. I'd be totally honest with them. You know, I think in real estate, sometimes that we think we need to learn all these perfect scripts and you know, be like a great salesperson. We picture a salesperson as all the right words at the right time. And I've learned something in my life, especially from all the great people I've had the opportunity to work with, is knowing all the right words and having the wrong intention will never work. So in other words, knowing all the right words, but having the wrong intention, and your intention is self-serving. Like when I go to a listing present, I want a deal. That's what I'm there for. I want to get a deal. I'm going to get the highest rate, you know, just go in there, I'm going to slam it. When I hear people talk like that, I think you got the wrong intention. But when you go out and you know the right words and you use those words with the right intention, and the intention is being authentic in your approach to truly make a difference in somebody else's life, that comes through. And that's the key to success. It is the intention, even more important than the words. But you take the right intention with the right words, and look out. Look at it. Right. Yeah.
Can you believe time's up?
Yeah.
Already? No. I want to thank you so much, Richard. What
Margaret,
an incredible speaker. What phenomenal advice. We appreciate it. And I want to thank all of you here for joining us this evening. You made it a wonderful show. I also want to remind you that we'll be coming to you live the first Tuesday of every month in 2004 with our Coaching Hall of Fame broadcast. Now, we're taking our show on the road in March, coming to you from the RE/MAX International Convention in San Diego, California. Be sure to join us Tuesday, March 2nd to hear Brian Buffini discuss how to make a fortune. So from everyone here in our studio audience and, of course, tonight's special guest, Richard Robbins, thanks so much for joining us, and we'll see you again real soon on the RE/MAX Satellite Network.